In the busy city of Kano, AbdulHakeem was a man everyone knew, but not for good reasons. He was one of the richest men in the city, owning many lands, houses, and big businesses like trucks and fabric factories. But his stinginess made people laugh at him. They joked that AbdulHakeem could get water from a stone just to save money. He wore the same white kaftan he bought years ago, now covered in patches. His car, an old Mercedes, was so worn out that it would stop working in the middle of the road. "This car is still fine, why waste money on a new one?" he would say as his embarrassed sons helped him push it to start again. AbdulHakeem had 3 wives, Zainab, Hafsat, and Aisha, and 9 children. His family had stopped hoping for nice things like new clothes or good shoes. His children often looked like they belonged in a movie about poor people. One day, his son Khalid complained, "Baba, my sandals are torn." AbdulHakeem just replied, "Then walk barefoot." But the real trouble started one hot afternoon when his second son, Abdulrahman, asked him for something important. "Baba," Abdulrahman said nervously, standing in front of his father. "I need 80,000 naira to register for an online class." "What is that?" AbdulHakeem asked, lowering the old newspaper he was reading. "It's a course that teaches internet business, Baba," Abdulrahman said excitedly. "My friends are already making money after taking it." AbdulHakeem squinted at him. "Internet business? Is it the internet that will feed you? You want 80,000 naira for what, to learn how to press your phone?" "No Baba," Abdulrahman begged. "It's serious. They show you how to start businesses online and earn money." "Online business," AbdulHakeem muttered, shaking his head. "So you want me to waste 80,000 naira on something that may not even work? When I was your age, I carried firewood on my head to make money. Go and find a way to survive." Abdulrahman walked away, angry and defeated. He knew his father wouldn't change. But this time, he'd had enough. That evening, while sitting with his friends, he came up with a bold idea. "I will fake my own kidnapping," Abdulrahman told his friends. "Are you serious?" one of them asked, laughing. "Yes. My father will have to pay to get me back," Abdulrahman replied. "He has plenty of money, even if he pretends not to." The boys agreed to the plan. The next morning, Abdulrahman left home like he was going to school. Instead, he joined his friends at an old, empty house. From there, they made the first call. "Hello old man," a rough voice shouted into the phone. "We have your son Abdulrahman. Pay us 2 million naira, or you will never see him again." There was a long silence on the other end. Then AbdulHakeem finally replied, 2 million? "Yes. And don't try to be smart, or he's gone forever." AbdulHakeem sighed. He thought to himself, "I have 9 children. Losing one will hurt, but it's not the end of the world." Then, without saying another word, he ended the call. For a whole week, Abdulrahman and his friends kept calling, shouting, and threatening AbdulHakeem. But the man didn't care. He ignored every single call. "Real kidnappers don't talk too much," he told his wives, casually. "These ones are just wasting airtime." Abdulrahman's friends started to panic. "Your father doesn't care at all," one of them said. "He has to care." Abdulrahman replied, but deep down, he knew the truth. His father loved his money more than anything else. After another day without any reply from AbdulHakeem, the boys gave up. Angry and embarrassed, Abdulrahman went back home. "Baba," he said angrily as he walked into the sitting room. "I was kidnapped, and you didn't even care." AbdulHakeem looked up from his newspaper. "You were kidnapped?" "Yes. For a whole week. They asked for 2 million naira, but you ignored them." AbdulHakeem muttered, shaking his head. "Next time, tell them to ask for something small, like 8,000 naira. That's what I would have paid to save you." The room burst into laughter. Abdulrahman stormed off, vowing never to ask his father for anything again. One cool morning, Zainab, AbdulHakeem's first wife, noticed that their youngest daughter, Fatima, was very hot with fever. Her small body shook, and her eyes barely opened. "AbdulHakeem!" Zainab shouted, running into her husband's room. AbdulHakeem sat on his old wooden chair, arranging his money into neat piles. "What is it, woman?" he asked without looking up. "It's Fatima. She is very sick. Please, we need to take her to the hospital," Zainab said, her voice shaking with worry. AbdulHakeem sighed deeply. "Hospital? Hospitals are for people who don't know how to use their brains. Let me get her some traditional medicine instead. It's cheaper and works better." "Traditional medicine?" Zainab asked, confused. "Yes," AbdulHakeem said, standing up and walking to the corner of the room. He picked up a small bottle of herbal mixture. "Rub this on her head and give her a spoonful. She'll be fine by evening." Zainab didn't believe him but did as she was told. By evening, Fatima's condition got worse. She had stopped eating, her breathing was weak, and she could no longer talk. Zainab rushed back to AbdulHakeem. "Your traditional medicine is not working," she shouted, holding the empty bottle. "She is getting worse." AbdulHakeem muttered, scratching his head. "Maybe we should add ginger and garlic to her food. Those things are very powerful." Zainab stared at him in shock. "Are you serious? She needs proper medical care." "I've told you already," AbdulHakeem said firmly. "Hospitals are too expensive. People only go there because they don't know any better." Hafsat and Aisha joined Zainab, trying to convince him. "Baba Fatima, this is not about money," Aisha said. "This is your daughter's life. She is Allah's creation," AbdulHakeem replied calmly. "If it's Allah's will, she will survive." The next morning, Zainab couldn't wait any longer. She wrapped Fatima in a blanket and told Hafsat and Aisha, "I'm taking her to the hospital myself." "But, what will you tell the doctors? You don't have any money, or do you?" Hafsat said. "I will find a way," Zainab replied. At the hospital, the doctor checked Fatima and shook his head. "This child is very sick. We need to start treatment immediately. But it will cost around 800,000 naira." Zainab's heart dropped. 800,000 naira, she whispered. "Yes," the doctor said. "If we don't act fast, we might lose her." That evening, Zainab sat in front of AbdulHakeem with tears in her eyes. "Hakeem, I've just come from the hospital," she began. "The doctor says Fatima needs treatment, and it will cost 800,000 naira. AbdulHakeem almost fell off his chair. He froze with a kola nut halfway to his mouth. He blinked twice and said, 800,000 naira? Are they treating her or building her a new body? Hakeem, this is serious. Zainab cried. Our daughter might die if we don't do something. AbdulHakeem sighed and scratched his head. Zainab, don't let these doctors deceive you. They'll always find ways to steal people's money. Tell them to give her paracetamol and let her rest. She'll be fine soon. Zainab looked at him in disbelief, unable to say a word. When he saw her shocked face, he added, I love Fatima, but spending 800,000 naira is like throwing money into a well. What if she needs another injection tomorrow? Will they ask for 1 million? Zainab left his room feeling hopeless. She went back to Hafsat and Aisha and told them everything. 800,000 naira? Hafsat gasped. Where will we find that kind of money? We'll have to beg, Zainab said. That evening, the three wives went from house to house, asking for help. Our daughter is very sick, they told neighbors. We need 800,000 naira to save her. Some neighbors gave small amounts, while others refused. Your husband owns almost all of Kano, one neighbor said angrily. Tell him to sell one of his many lands. He won't, Zainab replied bitterly. By nightfall, the women had only raised 140,000 naira. It was not enough. Zainab went back to AbdulHakeem with the money in her hands. Look, she said, we've managed to raise some money, but it's not enough. Please, add the rest so we can save Fatima. 140,000 naira is a lot of money, AbdulHakeem said, frowning. You shouldn't need more than that. But the doctor said it's 800,000 naira. Zainab shouted. Do you want her to die? Don't talk to me like that, woman, AbdulHakeem said calmly. I love my daughter, but spending 800,000 naira on hospital bills is just wasting money. Let's keep praying, Allah will provide a way. The next morning, Zainab returned to the hospital with the little money they had. She begged the doctor to start treatment and promised to pay the rest later. The doctor thought for a while, but finally agreed. We will do what we can, but you must find the rest of the money soon. At home, Hafsat and Aisha sold whatever they could to add to the fund. Neighbors who heard about Fatima's condition also gave more, but it was still not enough. While the women struggled, AbdulHakeem sat alone in his room. For the first time, he began to feel uneasy. He looked at the pile of money on his desk and thought about Fatima. What if she doesn't make it, he wondered. Will people blame me? But even as these thoughts worried him, he still couldn't bring himself to part with his money. That night, Zainab came home crying. The doctor said they need the full payment by tomorrow, she told AbdulHakeem. If we don't pay, they will stop her treatment. AbdulHakeem sat quietly, staring at the floor. Life at AbdulHakeem's mansion was anything but luxurious, despite the family's wealth. His wives had long grown tired of his refusal to repair the leaking roof or replace the tattered furniture, and his children wore second-hand clothes that barely fit. One day, his second wife, Hafsat, approached him while he was counting rent payments from his many properties. Hakeem, we've run out of rice, beans, and even salt, she said. The children have been eating plain bread for days. Please, give us some money to buy food. AbdulHakeem sighed deeply, as if Hafsat had asked for a kidney. Hafsat, do you know how much I spent on bread last week? 1,900 naira. You people eat like the whole of Kano lives here. Bread is not food, she snapped, unable to contain her frustration. Well, that's your opinion, he replied, waving her off. That same afternoon, AbdulHakeem went to inspect one of his properties in a different part of the city. The tenant, Musa, had fallen behind on rent payments, and AbdulHakeem wasn't one to let such things slide. Musa, AbdulHakeem began as he stood in the doorway of the small, run-down apartment. Your rent is 3 months overdue. If you can't pay by next week, you'll have to leave. Musa, a struggling tailor with 3 children, fell to his knees. Al-Haji, please have mercy. Business has been slow, but I promise to pay soon. My family has nowhere else to go. AbdulHakeem clicked his tongue. Mercy doesn't pay bills. Next week, or you're out. As AbdulHakeem drove home in his old rattling Mercedes car, it suddenly broke down in the middle of a busy road. Sweat poured down his face as he tried to push the car to the side, but no one stopped to help. He glanced at his phone, hesitating to call any of his family members. Deep down, he knew they wouldn't rush to his aid. Eventually, a mechanic passing by offered to help. Al-Haji, your car is too old. You need to replace this engine or buy a new car, the mechanic said after a quick inspection. Replace engine? Buy new car? AbdulHakeem laughed bitterly. Are you trying to bankrupt me? The mechanic shook his head. If you don't fix it, it will keep breaking down. Just do a small repair, I will manage it, AbdulHakeem insisted. Later that week, AbdulHakeem received a call from a wealthy acquaintance, Al-Haji Suleiman. There's a prime piece of land for sale in Kaduna, Suleiman explained. The government plans to develop that area soon. It's a once-in-a-lifetime investment. The land was expensive, but the potential profits were enormous. AbdulHakeem, blinded by the thought of more wealth, withdrew millions of naira to make the purchase. That same evening, Zainab confronted him. Hakeem, I heard you bought another piece of land today, she said, her voice trembling with anger. You can spend millions on land, but you can't spend 800,000 to save your daughter? What kind of man are you? AbdulHakeem's face darkened. Don't question me, woman. I'm building a future for this family. What future? You'll have all the land in the world, but no one to share it with. Her words lingered in the air long after she stormed out of the room. The day AbdulHakeem's family packed their bags and left was just another day for him. He woke up, went to his usual seat in the living room, and began counting his daily earnings as usual. When he noticed the unusual silence in the house, he shrugged. "Oh, maybe they've gone to their mother's people," he muttered to himself, flipping through his notebook of rental payments. On the dining table, there was a note scrawled in Zainab's handwriting. AbdulHakeem glanced at it briefly but tossed it aside, uninterested in its contents. "Whatever complaints they have, I'm not in the mood for drama." That afternoon, he visited his textile company to review the weekly profits. The manager, Ibrahim, greeted him cautiously. "Al-Haji, we've had a slight drop in sales this week. Customers are complaining about the fabric quality." "Drop in sales?" AbdulHakeem frowned. "Are you people eating my profits there?" "No sir," Ibrahim said, looking down. "But the machines are old, and the workers are complaining about their pay." AbdulHakeem waved him off. "Tell them to manage. Who pays salaries on time these days? Let them be grateful they have jobs at all." Later, he visited one of his construction sites, where the project manager informed him of equipment breakdowns. "Al-Haji, we need new equipment," the manager said. "The current ones are beyond repair." "What do you mean beyond repair?" AbdulHakeem barked. "Can't they manage? Or are they too big to use a hammer and nails?" The manager sighed, realizing it was pointless to argue. When AbdulHakeem returned home that evening, the silence felt heavier than before. The clattering of plates, the arguments of children, and the occasional chatter of his wives were absent. Still, he was unmoved. He even enjoyed the peace for a while. "Finally, some quiet in this house," he said, settling into his chair to calculate how much he had saved by not giving his family money for food. Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness began to feel oppressive. One evening, his eldest son, Hassan, returned home unexpectedly. AbdulHakeem was startled to see him at the door. "Hassan? What are you doing here?" he asked. "I only came to pick up some of my things," Hassan said coldly. As Hassan walked through the house, AbdulHakeem tried to strike up a conversation. "So, where are you people staying now?" "Somewhere better," Hassan replied, avoiding eye contact. "And your mother? Is she still angry over that small misunderstanding?" Hassan turned to face him, his eyes blazing with anger. "Misunderstanding? Baba, you watched Fatima almost die because you refused to pay her hospital bill. Mama and the rest of us had to beg strangers for help. You call that a misunderstanding?" AbdulHakeem was taken aback by his son's boldness but quickly masked his discomfort. "Hassan, you don't understand. Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm doing all this for your future." Hassan laughed bitterly. "What future? You have all the money in the world, but you refuse to use it for your family. Keep your future, Baba. We don't want it." With that, Hassan left, leaving AbdulHakeem standing alone in the doorway. The following week, AbdulHakeem began to feel the weight of his family's absence. The once lively home had become a cold, empty shell. He found himself talking to the walls, reminiscing about better days. Even his tenants began avoiding him. Musa, the tailor, finally vacated his apartment, leaving a note that read, "May Allah reward you for your kindness, Al-Haji. But I pray I never have to rent from you again." AbdulHakeem dismissed the note with a scoff, but deep down, it stung. One day, as he sat alone in his office, he received an unexpected call from a neighbor. "Al-Haji, I just saw one of your sons, Yusuf, at the market. He looked different." "Different how?" AbdulHakeem asked, frowning. "Thin. Worn out. He was working as a porter, carrying goods for people. He said he needed money for school fees." AbdulHakeem hung up without responding, his heart pounding. For the first time, a sliver of guilt crept into his thoughts. Had he pushed his family too far? The silence in AbdulHakeem's house was heavy. Weeks had passed since his family left, and he began to feel the emptiness. One afternoon, while sitting alone in his room, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. It wasn't just a physical pain, it was the loneliness that was eating at him. He stumbled to his bed, holding his chest. "Allah! Please help me, he whispered, sweat dripping from his face. His shaky hands reached for his phone, and he called Zainab. Zainab, he said weakly when she answered. AbdulHakeem, she asked, her voice unsure. I need help, he said, struggling to swallow his pride. Can't your money help you? She replied angrily. Please Zainab. AbdulHakeem begged. There was a long pause before she said, we will come, but don't think this means everything is okay. That evening, Zainab arrived with her co-wives and some of the children. AbdulHakeem's heart felt lighter when he saw them, but their faces were different, they looked distant, careful, and hurt. Baba, you called us, Hassan said coldly, his arms crossed. Yes, AbdulHakeem said weakly. I'm not feeling well. Zainab looked at him closely. Her expression softened just a little. You need to see a doctor. I can't go alone, he whispered. Zainab looked at the other wives, Hasfat and Aisha. After a short moment, they all agreed to take him to the hospital. The doctor's words were serious. Al-Haji, you are too stressed. If you don't rest and stop worrying too much, your health will get worse. On the drive back home, no one spoke. Sitting in the back seat, AbdulHakeem stared out the window, thinking about everything he had done wrong, the time he didn't pay Fatima's hospital bill, the fights with his wives, and how distant his children had become. I worked so hard to avoid being poor, he muttered, but what have I gained? Aisha, who was sitting beside him, finally spoke. What you gained was fear. And that fear broke this family. Her words hit him like a slap. The house was quiet, except for the soft sound of the ceiling fan. AbdulHakeem sat in his old chair, looking at his family. They had gathered reluctantly. His wives, Zainab, Hasfat, and Aisha, looked at him with cautious eyes. His older children avoided his gaze, while the younger ones didn't fully understand what was happening. His hand shook as he began to speak. I want to talk to all of you. Please listen, not as someone you are angry with, but as a man who knows he made mistakes and wants to make things right. No one said a word, but their silence gave him courage. I grew up with nothing, he began, his voice heavy with regret. My parents were so poor that some days, we had no food. I remember sitting in school hungry, pretending I was fine because I was too ashamed to say anything. I borrowed books from my classmates, and my school uniform was always torn. Zainab's face softened a little, but she didn't speak. I worked day and night to leave poverty behind, AbdulHakeem said, tears forming in his eyes. I saved every penny I earned. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't go out with friends. I didn't spend money on anything I didn't need. When I started making money, I thought I was free, but I wasn't. He looked at his children. I was so scared of being poor again that I couldn't see what I was losing. I thought if I saved enough and worked hard, I could protect all of you. But instead, I pushed you all away. I let my fear control me, and it turned me into someone I don't even know anymore. Turning to Zainab, he said, when Fatima was sick, and you asked me for money for her hospital bill. I told myself I was being careful with money. But deep down, I knew I was wrong. Yet, I still didn't do what a father should do. Zainab quickly wiped a tear from her eye but looked away, pretending she wasn't crying. Tears streamed down AbdulHakeem's face as he continued, I know I can't undo the pain I've caused. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I am begging you, for the sake of Allah and the family we once were, please, give me another chance. The children exchanged glances. Hassan, who was always the boldest, spoke up. How do we know you won't go back to your old ways, Baba? How can we trust you after everything? AbdulHakeem nodded, his head bowed in shame. You don't have to trust me right now. I will work hard to earn your trust. I will show you through my actions that I have changed. Zainab stepped forward, her voice firm but calm. Hakeem, we have suffered because of your choices. Forgiving you doesn't mean the pain will disappear instantly. But we will try. For the family's sake. Hasfat and Aisha nodded in agreement, though their faces showed they were still unsure. The children also nodded hesitantly, their emotions a mix of relief and lingering hurt. "Thank you," AbdulHakeem said, his voice breaking. "Thank you for giving me a chance." AbdulHakeem kept his promise. He sold some of his properties and businesses, using the money to pay off debts and help the community. He bought his family a better house and replaced his old car with a reliable one. He also bought each of his wives a car. He created an education fund for his children, ensuring they would never struggle the way he did. He started attending mosque activities and sought advice from the imam on how to rebuild his family's trust. One evening, as the sun set over their new home, AbdulHakeem gathered his family for prayer. Sitting on his prayer mat, he whispered a heartfelt dua, "Ya Allah, I have been a foolish man. Thank you for showing me the truth before it was too late. Help me to be a better husband, a better father, and a better servant to you. Please remind me that wealth comes from you and should be shared, not kept selfishly. Ameen." When he opened his eyes, he saw his family smiling at him. For the first time in years, AbdulHakeem felt truly rich, not because of money, but because of the love he had regained. Thank you for staying till the end. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.